Doug has an amazing class on the microbiome that gets way, way, way deeper than I'm going to get today. So um, am I going to be able to share my screen if I want or no?
If she makes you the host, you can.
Okay, because I don't know if we even have time to do that, but there might be a couple of screens off of this class of Doug's that I might want to share with you guys. And I can also put the PDF of the slides into the chat if you want me to do that, and you guys can look through the slides of the class that Doug does. And it won't be like him teaching because it won't be as in depth, but you can get some notes from the slides. So anyway, so I was going through all this stuff, and I wanted to talk about the microbiome and about well, I mostly wanted to talk about what you can use to support your microbiome, food wise and supplement wise and oil wise. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on why you want to protect your microbiome and what it actually controls, because it's fascinating. And they're learning more about this all the time. I don't know if you guys have seen, but a lot of research has been coming out recently about the connection between depression and anxiety and your gut health. There's tons of clinical studies being done right now. So, and it's just amazing when you study why that is. I know a lot of us are just like, okay, I don't care why it is. I just want to take the stuff and get better. And that's great and fine. My husband is the exact opposite of that. He has to figure out why. So he figures out why about everything. And I'm kind of in the middle. I like to know a little bit about why, but if it works, I take it anyway and don't worry about it. So anyway, so I talked to Stacy, and she said she thought what we could do is kind of divide it into two parts. So today I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background on why we should support our microbiome and some of the things that it controls. And like I said, they're literally discovering different things, different ways that your gut health and microbiome affect your entire body health, like every month. It's crazy. It's one of the hot topics that they're doing a lot of research on right now. So if you get on PubMed and that's your thing, you can search and you will find thousands of studies that they're doing on the microbiome, on good bacteria, and all that good stuff. So today we're going to talk about what the microbiome is and why it's important, very compactly and briefly. So your microbiome is the population of microbial or microscopic communities that are living in and on our bodies, which is kind of weird when you think about it. But it's also really cool because it's just amazing how God made our bodies. It's just so cool to me that he actually made our bodies to where we have these communities of microscopic organisms that are actual organisms living on us and in us that do all these cool things and keep our bodies in check. The microbiome includes bacteria, fungi, yeast. So, you always hear about your yeast being on overload. That's true. Your yeast can be on overload, but you have good and bad yeast species in your body, and you need yeast in your body because some of it is beneficial. You also have viruses in your body that are beneficial. And they're learning more about that every day. So there are viruses that your body actually uses for its benefit that stay in your body all the time. And then there are also protists, which I'm not really sure examples of that, but Doug says it's so it's probably so. Okay, so the number of microbial organisms in your body actually outnumber your human cells that are at your actual body somewhere between 3 to 1 and 10 to 1. So you have tons of these in your body. You actually are made up more of these microorganisms than you are your actual human cells. So obviously they're important. 3 of the big things that they help with are immunity, hormones, and metabolic homeostasis. So your metabolism and how you use and metabolize food for energy. They program your immune system. They're super important when you are an infant. It's very important for you to have a good microbiome when you're an infant because your body is actually learning self from invader. So it's learning what is actually you and what's not you. And the gut microbiome has a huge play in that. That's why it's super important if you possibly can to breastfeed, because you're building up your baby's microbiome when you're doing that, as well as all sorts of other cool things. Metabolically, it processes the microbiome helps process nutrients, foods, and vitamins. It breaks down fibers that we are not able to break down on our own with our enzymes. So the microbiome actually uses some of the fibers, the insoluble fibers, as food, which we'll talk about that. That's what we call prebiotics. And so if we didn't have a microbiome, we would not be able to digest those. It is intricately involved in hormonal signaling. Doug goes into way more detail on that in his class, but your hormones are dependent on your microbiome to signal them to turn on and off. So that's the synopsis of it. And what they're studying, a big thing they're studying right now, is that the microbiome's hugely involved in neurochemical signaling. You actually have, this is what we call the gut-brain axis. You've heard that term. Your gut is called your second brain, because it actually, and they're just discovering this recently, it actually has its own independent nervous system with 100 million neurons. So your gut is connected by the vagus nerve to your brain and has 100 million neurons, and it actually has its own independent nervous system, which is really cool. It produces hundreds of neurochemicals, serotonin, GABA, norepinephrine, dopamine, melatonin. All those are produced in your gut by the bacteria that are in your gut, the good bacteria that are in your gut. So obviously, this is why it's involved in depression and anxiety, because if you don't have those things, then you're going to be in trouble with your emotional health and mental health. So that's the gut-brain axis, and it's really cool. They're discovering more and more about that all the time. As far as your gut goes, like I said before, it's going to digest indigestible components of our diet, mostly the fibers, and it's going to digest them into short-chain fatty acids, which we use all over our body. It processes micronutrients, amino acids, vitamins, especially B and K. So if your gut biome is not working, you're going to have you're not going to be getting all your nutrients. It functions as an endocrine messenger to signal hormones on and off. I think I mentioned that before. And it protects against leaky gut because it helps to form tight junctions in the gut to keep us from having leaky gut. And we could do a whole class on leaky gut, but it's tons of problems stem from leaky gut. So you don't want a leaky gut. Our collagen actually has, we'll talk about this more next week, but our collagen actually has several things in it that are crucial. They're huge helps to filling in the gaps that you have in your gut to keep you from having leaky gut too. So that's cool. Obesity. There's a huge link between gut health and obesity. There's been studies done where they actually take the microbiome, like they've taken identical twins where one is obese and the other is not. So they're genetically identical. They use that as a control. They actually take the microbiome from a thin or fit person, identical twin, and they transplant it into the obese twin, and the obese twin becomes non-obese over just like 6-month period. So obviously it has something to do with obesity. They also have tested obese people's microbiome, and they're completely different from people who are not obese. The main difference is that they do not have diversity in their microbiome. So they may have some good bacteria in their microbiome, but they don't have a lot of species of it. They just have a few species. They don't have a lot. So we'll talk more about that. But Life 9 is the most diverse probiotic that I've ever encountered being sold, because it has 9 species, which is more than any I've ever seen. Let's see. I think that is. So I want to talk about prebiotics just a little bit. So pre and probiotics are both very important to your gut health. And I'll just tell you why. And then next week, when we talk about what you can do to support your microbiome, then we'll talk about what Young Living offers prebiotic and probiotic wise, and also about what foods you can use for those. So prebiotics are fibrous foods that we can't digest on our own, that the good bacteria in our body do digest, and convert them into short chain fatty acids. So they're basically the food that the good bacteria uses to survive and thrive in our gut. So you need prebiotics, and you need prebiotics. Doug's personal opinion is that when you're jump starting your microbiome, when you're having problems with it, that you should take a probiotic every day and prebiotics. And then once you've been doing that for about a month, that you should back off on the probiotic and do it about 1 to 2 times a week, but keep up the prebiotics. Because once you colonize your probiotics, then you just really need the food to keep them going. So there are several types of prebiotics. There's inulin, there's fructo-oligosaccharides, beta-glucans, resistant starch. And so next week, we're going to talk about the foods and products that we can use and supplements that we can use that have those in them. And then probiotics are actually the actual bacteria that colonize the gut. So that's what you're going to find in Life 9. It's an actual probiotic, and also Mighty Pro is actual pro and prebiotic. So that's about all I had about the microbiome. But if you guys have questions, then I will either answer them or I will find out if I don't know.
So real quick, you said to jumpstart, you do the probiotics and the prebiotics every day for a month.
Yes.
And then after that, it's 1 to 2. You do the probiotics 1 to 2 times a week, but you still keep up with the prebiotics.
Yes.
Or is it 1 to 2 times a month?
Yes.
I can't remember if you said a week or a month.
Okay. So when you want to jumpstart and do a reset of your microbiome, you want to do a probiotic every night after your last meal, between your last meal and bedtime, for 4 straight weeks. And you want to eat or take a prebiotic twice a day while you're doing that.
Okay.
And then also try to eat pre and probiotic rich foods while you're doing that. And
right.
Then when you're doing maintenance, you want to do the probiotic 1 to 2 times a week, and a prebiotic food or supplement once a day. So you always want to keep up the prebiotic.
Okay. And then do you always do the probiotics at night?
Yeah, that's the best time to take them.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I know that's the same for activated charcoal, but I didn't know that about the probiotics.
Yep.
Tiffany, I saw you writing all that down. If you could, if you wouldn't mind copy and pasting some of that into the comments, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can do that.
So, what do you think about adults taking the Mighty Pro?
I take them.
So the Mighty Pro is great for prebiotics. It's got several different kinds of prebiotics, so it's great for prebiotic. And as far as the probiotic goes, the microbiome of a child and an adult are slightly different.
Okay.
And so Young Living actually formulated the probiotic in the Mighty Pro specifically for a child's gut microbiome. But it's definitely not going to hurt you, and it's just going to put different species in there. So it's not going to hurt you. The prebiotic is great. Yeah. So Clorinda's asking about Mighty Pro when you're pregnant. Yes, I would totally think that would be beneficial to take while you're pregnant. Let's see. Prebiotic. Oh yes. Sulfurzyme. We'll definitely talk about that next week. It definitely has prebiotics in it. Wolfberries themselves are an amazing prebiotic. So
just the raw wolfberries, chewing them?
Or Ninja. Both are. But the wolfberries are actually better as far as a prebiotic goes because they have all the fiber. No, Lori, go ahead. I'm going to talk about that next week, but you go right ahead and say whatever you want about fermented food. Yeah.
The wolfberries, you can just put that into water to reconstitute it and throw it into your smoothies or whatever, into your yogurt or whatever you're doing.
Because they use the Ninja pulp in the juice, then you're still going to get some of that fiber, but I'm sure that the wolfberries definitely have more fiber in them. Doug eats those things by the handfuls every day. Like Yeah.
Yeah.
Lori.
If you ever saw the old Ninja Red documentary thing that Gary did, where they filmed the natives that were, using these ninja berries and living to 120 and all that. You saw them, they would drink it as a tea, and then when they were done with their tea, they'd just eat the berries.
Yes.
That was kind of how they did it.
Doug has a whole class on ninja. I'll tell you that the first time Doug read the book that Gary published about ninja, before he ever started making all these classes and stuff, and he was like literally like he read it in like he sat down and read it, the whole book, and he was literally like telling me all day long. He was just like quoting, "Oh my gosh, did you know this about ninja?" And I was like, okay, Doug's getting excited. So that was really the first thing. Ninja was really the first thing that threw Doug into like a whole big mind flurry about all this stuff. He has a whole class on ninja, and it's amazing. Like y'all, everybody needs ninja in their life, and or wolf berries, both. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to get him to come on and share with us some of that on one of our calls. That sounds good. All right. Lori is also going to be sharing a little bit about gut health and her experience, her own personal experience in her family.
And hi, everybody. Amy, that was incredible. And I hope that I don't steal your stuff for next week, because you know so much. And that was a really great encapsulation of gut health. I'm kind of the gut health gal because of the gut brain connection, and because of the ADHD, autism, dyslexia, dyspraxia, Asperger's, all of that connection that was in my family and what we did. And one of the most important things that we did was we had to take a look at the gut health. And yes, amen to everything Amy said. I wanted to talk about two things. One of them is the GAPS diet. That's GAPS. It's just heavy on bone broth. Now it goes by a lot of different names, but it's basically no grains and no sugar, so that you can give your gut a chance to reform all of the villi that have been destroyed and taken out. It's just really heavy on real foods and broths and fermented foods. So that's where I'm going to get into the second thing I wanted to talk about, because we've had such success in this, and everybody that was compromised is now completely fully functioning, and you would never know. And that's not typical, that you hear people reverse things. And so I'm here to tell you that life is full of hope. There's hope in all of these diagnoses that they want to speak over you. Fermented vegetables is one of the key things. And I'm just going to give you my little fermented vegetables speech. This wild brine, you can get this at the Costco, friends. Yep. So here's the deal. And I don't know how it's fermented. So I don't know if this is equal to the probiotic fermented foods that you can eat at home. But here's my speech. Fermented foods used to be just what we did. It was just part of everyday life. And when I was a fermenter, we had the Borre brothers' famous ferments, and we worked farmers markets. And I would talk to people for hours about fermented foods. So I heard a lot of stories, and there are a lot of grandmas and great grandmas out there that took all of the cabbage and cut it up and stuck it in the bathtub and salted it and crunched it up. And then they stuck it in a barrel, and it sat outside on the porch for 6 months. They put a plate on top of it with a rock on top of that. And when it came time to eat it, they would scoop off the bad stuff on the top, throw it away, and then underneath was fresh. A lot of people whose grandmamas and great grandmamas buried their product, whatever it is, in the yard for 6 months. Every culture in the world did this. So in South America, they called it curtido. In Russia,
Kimchi.
Kimchi in Korea. They had the beet kvass in Russia. They had in Germany, of course, the sauerkraut. they had, I can't remember the African one is called. In India, they had their chutneys. Like everybody did this. And in the US, that's what catsup was. Ketchup was a fermented fish sauce, right? Fermentation is the basis of health in every single culture in the world, if it's the old culture. And it just kept everybody healthy because it kept their guts healthy. So why did we stop doing this? Well, we stopped doing it because we got refrigeration. And then we got a little bit of hubris. We thought, well, I don't need to do what grandma did because I have refrigeration now. I'm better and we're better.
And let's load it with lots of sugar too.
Yes. I mean, oh yeah, that whole sugar lobby thing. Don't even let me get started on that. But the truth is that you can do in 8 bottles of probiotic capsules of Life 9. And I'm not trying to not sell the Life 9 because as probiotics go, it is good stuff. And if you just want to pop pill, do it. But why not add this into? Because 1 bite of kraut is equal to a serving. Okay. So, and I love what Doug said about you don't have to do, once you're colonized, you don't have to do those probiotics every day. That is so true if it's a probiotic, but if it's a kraut, you should do this every single meal. So I ferment, we just do it. And then before we eat, we take a bite of whatever it is. Before you eat is better because also the enzyme count is up. But let me tell you about, Amy was telling you about the different species of probiotics. This is going to rock your brain. In Life 9, there's 9 different species, which is superior to most probiotics out there. You can spend a gajillion dollars and get like 30 if you really want to work that hard, but don't, because Life 9 is superior. But in a jar of properly fermented, lacto-fermented sauerkraut, there's 1,000 different strains. They've only named 400 of them. They only know what 50 of them do. So they know the strains that are helpful for immune system, and they know the ones that are helpful for keeping you fit and skinny. They don't even know what those other 1,000 strains do, but who knows? Who knows about that? God knows, and God designed your body to work with it. And so it's just like an essential oil. You don't have to know everything that it does. Just slap it on, right? So will you just ferment something and take a bite before every meal? Here's the truth. I'm not even really good at serving vegetables at every meal. I'm not good at it, but you know what I'm good at? Take a bite of, this is tomatoes and onions, and this is mamash tava. That is good stuff. These are jalapenos, fermented jalapenos. Oh my word, they're good. Dilly carrots are so easy to make. You just slap them in a jar, put some dill in there and salt the brine and pour it over and leave it on your counter for 3 or 4 days. Same with dilly beans. And I'll tell you what, that stuff, that's a certain kind of a yeast. I can't remember the name of it, but it's not harmful. Don't worry about it. Anyway, so this was huge for us all healing our guts. In addition to all these other products that Amy's going to talk about next week, because I don't want to step on her toes on those products. They are amazing. Oh, glutamine. Anyway, so that's good stuff. Now, I wanted to talk to you for just a minute about gifts. So can we swerve for just a minute? Okay, I love giving oily gifts and I love giving them to my church. And it just became a thing that I started doing. I would do something different every year. And I can't even tell you how many people have come to me and wanted more and then wanted to enroll because of these oily gifts. And I just make them pretty. And I make like lotion, lip balm, keep it simple. These recipes are out there on the internet. It is not hard to find. Probably Stacy has a dozen recipes. Let's see, lotion, lip balm, deodorant. Oh, right now, what do we need to be making? Because Young Living apparently can't source something to keep our deodorant. But I used to make that stuff and give it away to people. And it's just a beautiful thing to do. So I would encourage you to think, and you can get really pretty stickers and put it on, and you can use the stuff in your starter kit. I would use the stuff in your starter kit so that when somebody says, this smells amazing, what's in here? Oh, right. All roads lead to Rome. So thank you for letting me share that stuff.
Thank you, Lori, for that information. And now we know we need to rope you in to a class on how to make this stuff, right? Gonna do that for us? That would be awesome. And I guess you could use oils in your recipes too. You got black pepper and any of that. Would that work? You're muted if you're
You're saying yes. Tiffany, have you used black pepper in yours or dill?
I have. We did pickled radishes the other day, and I put black pepper in ours. I cook with oils like all the time.
Is it
It's one of my
fermented?
favorite things to do.
But is it
It
fermented?
doesn't. Yeah, they're
Did you-
fermented.
They're not pickled with vinegar. They're lacto fermented.
Oh no, I use apple cider vinegar in my radishes.
Okay, so yeah, that's different. I have found that, yes, Amy. Were you gonna say?
I've done a little bit, and it seems like a little different, but some of like the apple chutney with the cabbage, I've done the ginger oil with it, and it turned out fine. So
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't experimented much because of the chemistry of it all, because it's different than a vinegar. That's the acidic acid doing the work, and nothing wrong with doing that, but it's not lacto fermented. So if you want the probiotics, you've got to do the lacto fermenting. And between you and me, I've been scared to use oils because I don't know. But listen, look at me. I'm scared to use oils. Hello, Lori, test it. Put a drop of dill in and see how it goes. So yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, I just wanted to add this. I haven't tried fermented vegetables yet, but Connor's been doing kombucha. That's his little project right now. Like, he's been all about kombucha. And he done I
Can't
sent
see you, Abby.
sorry. He's done a couple of oils in them, and I think he usually does it in the second fermentation batch, and it's been amazing. He made a Nixa orange and clove kombucha the other day, and it was awesome. So I know that you can use oils. I don't know how it worked with the vegetables, but at least in kombucha it was yummy.
I'm so glad to know that, because actually I'm writing a book, it's half written, about fermentation. So
Oh,
maybe get off my hind end, start experimenting with all of the things and fermenting, and then we'll take that class.
Absolutely.
do is if you're a little concerned about adding it to it, I've never found it to bother it after it's fermented for like 3 or 4 days, then you can put extra dill vitality or whatever it is, and it's never, yeah. So
And you can mix it in the salt to get it to emulsify throughout, so that it's not just a drop of dill floating on the top. Okay, let's do it.
That sounds awesome.
Okay, so hopefully you guys either were on the call last week, or if not, you can go back and rewatch the call. And because the first part of the call we talked about just what your microbiome is and why it's important. So this week we're going to talk about what you can do with foods and with Young Living products to support your microbiome.
And Amy, what I might do is edit the two, part 1 and part 2, and maybe put them together, like edit your portion out and put it together as one replay.
Yeah, that would be good. In that case, you can just watch the whole thing. So if you remember last week, we talked about prebiotics and probiotics, and the fact that prebiotics are the actual food. Well, let's start with probiotics. Probiotics are the actual microorganisms that are in your gut and your microbiome, and huge number of these in your body. They actually outnumber your actual human cells. The numbers out on that, but they think somewhere between 3 and 10 times your human cells. So huge number of microorganisms, and I'm talking about the good ones that God put there. And of course, you can have microorganisms in your system that are bad, but one of the most awesome things, in my opinion, about essential oils is that they are smart because they come from plants. And, the Bible says that God made plants for our medicine. So they know how to differentiate between good and bad. So when you take an antibiotic, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the class, and how if you have to take one, because sometimes you do have to take an antibiotic. If you have to take one, which you should avoid if at all possible, but of course, if you have some sort of an infection that's taken over your body, sometimes you have no choice. You can do a reset, and we're going to talk about that, to reset your microbiome. But you pretty much wipe your entire microbiome out when you take a round of antibiotics. And that's not a good thing, because the antibiotics are man-made and they don't know how to differentiate between your good and your bad. So they just kill bacteria. That's what they're programmed to do. So yeah, avoid those if you possibly can. And then prebiotics are the other component, and they are the actual food that the probiotics, the good bacteria in your microbiome, eat. So they need that to survive. So you definitely want to have some sort of prebiotic component to your diet, whether it's food, that's actually the best way to get them if you possibly can, or supplements. And another cool thing about Young Living is that this is something that Doug was super impressed with when he started looking at all the supplements before he started massively promoting them, is that Young Living does their very best to use whole foods sources in their supplements, all their supplements. And also, of course, we have oils in most of our supplements, so that helps with absorption. But you want to use a food source if possible, and that's what Young Living does whenever it's possible. So our supplements are top notch as far as that goes. So you want to have a supplement or a food in your diet every day that is a prebiotic. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is the sources of pre and probiotics. So I'm going to talk about prebiotics first. There's lots of different prebiotics. We talked about that some last week, but prebiotics are mostly fiber. They're like fiber that we don't normally digest, but that the microbiome in our body thrives on, and they know how to digest it. So Young Living has some great sources for that. One primary source of prebiotics, or category prebiotics, is inulin. And a great source for this is chicory root. You can find this in several of the sleep products. It's in sleep tea, the sleep bars, which those are out of stock. I'm not sure if they're coming back, but it said on the website that they were coming back. So I'm assuming they will be back at some point. And also the protein power bites. I don't know if you guys have had those, but they're really good. And they have inulin in them. So that's a good source of prebiotics. Another source is tapioca fiber. Now, not all fiber is a prebiotic, because the bacteria in your gut can't eat all fiber. But these fibers that I'm talking about today are all prebiotic fiber that your microbiome can thrive on. So tapioca fiber is another one. Tapioca fiber is the prebiotic source that they put into our inner beauty collagen. So you're getting a prebiotic when you take collagen. That's one thing that I would tell people if they start balking at the price of our collagen. Our collagen actually has things in it that are amazing, that are helpful for absorption of the collagen, but they're also helpful for keeping up our microbiome. The peach ceramides are one thing that helps our collagen to absorb a lot better, and it's also just another component that helps with your skin. And that's the thing that's keeping it out of stock right now. But it's because we refuse to source it with cruddy sources. So hopefully it'll be back in the next couple of weeks, I believe. So the collagen does have a prebiotic tapioca fiber in it. ICP Daily also has tapioca fiber, which is a prebiotic. And obviously ICP is, to keep you moving, but it's great for gut health. And it's great if you need to do a reboot after you take antibiotics. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Wolfberry fiber is also a prebiotic. So if you eat the wolfberries, if you drink Ningxia, because they use the pulp of the fruit in Ningxia, that's why it's sort of a little thicker than regular juice. It's very, I like it in that it's not pulpy like a pulpy orange juice, but they do use the pulp, and I guess they just, do something special to it. So it doesn't taste pulpy, but The pulp is going to have the fiber in it. So you can drink Ninja or you can eat the berries and you're going to get the prebiotic from it. We also have the wolfberry fiber, which is a prebiotic, is also in sulfurzyme powder and capsules. Sulfurzyme powder also has an added prebiotic to it, which is fructooligosaccharides, which is the next category we're going to talk about. So you got 2 prebiotics in sulfurzyme powder, but you have a prebiotic in the wolfberry fiber in sulfurzyme powder and capsules. So if powder goes out of stock, you can still take the capsules and you'll get prebiotic from it. There's also a great multi-source of prebiotic fiber in Master Formula. They actually formulated Master Formula to have a prebiotic component in it. That's how important it is for your overall health. So if you take Master Formula, you're getting a prebiotic in it. Mighty Pro also is a pre and probiotic, so it has both. So you're getting prebiotic in that, and it's primarily the wolfberry fiber. But it also has the next thing we're going to talk about, which is fructooligosaccharides, or FOS is what they're called for short. They're in Mighty Pro. They're in Master Formula. We talked about them being in sulfurzyme powder, and they're also in Amino Wise. So those are some sources that you can get prebiotics out of. Those were prebiotics. Then we're going to talk about probiotics. Of course, the given is Life 9, which is 17 billion live cultures per dose, 9 strains, and it's in a delayed release capsule. So what that means is that you need to replenish the microbiome, the bacteria in your microbiome in your entire GI tract. So what Life 9 capsules do is they dissolve slowly and they survive the stomach so that they can get down into your small and large intestine. Not all probiotics have that. Ours has it, and so they were formulated especially because you need it in your entire tract, not just your stomach. And I think most probiotics will probably get to your small intestine, maybe like the top portion of it, but ours are made to where they don't completely dissolve until they get down into like the entire small intestine and probably down into the large. You're also going to get probiotics in Mighty Pro. It has 8 billion, and it also has the pre with it. It actually has different strains than Life 9. So some people, if they're trying to reboot, they will do both, because Mighty Pro was formulated for a child's microbiome, but all that stuff is helpful for adults and children. So it has pre and pro. Ninja Greens, this is a really cool one. This is a new one. And it has got 50 fermented whole foods in it. If you look at the ingredients of Ninja Greens, it's a huge ingredient list, and you're like, how in the world did they get all that? It's that little, but it is actually, they're fermented, so they have they're a source of probiotics, and there's 50 of them in there, and they're all from whole foods. So that's awesome that we have that. Plus, of course, we know that all that green stuff is just good for you. And another source of probiotics is the Pure Protein Complete shake mix. It has probiotics in it. And that's something I forgot to mention. Balance Complete. I didn't even know this until I started researching this for this class. Balance Complete, which I was like, do we even still have that? Because I did use it when I did the, what did they used to call the thing that had digestion cleanse? It was like a 5-day cleanse, I guess. Yeah. So that's the only time I've ever used the Balance Complete. Because then, when we came out with the fancy packaged protein, Pure Protein, I was like, oh, I'm getting some chocolate. But the Balance Complete is actually, it's a great source of pre and probiotics. So, and they probably did that because they were planning on using it in the 5-day cleanse. I can tell you that I did that and I lost like 10 pounds in 5 days. So yeah, it was a long time ago, but, and I think it was just that it just like cleaned me out. I mean, so that's a great one that people might have even forgotten, because I had to look up and be like, do we even still have that? I haven't heard anybody talking about that, but yes, we do still have it. And it's a great source of pre and probiotics. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is doing a gut reset after you take antibiotics. Okay, most people are going to have to take antibiotics every now and then. Thankfully, I have not had them in forever. Before I started using oils, I literally used to be on antibiotics at least 2 to 3 times a year. And that was when I went in fighting and screaming because I hated taking them. But I would get the worst sinus infections, and it would be to the point where my ENT was like, you're going to get a brain infection if you don't get rid of whatever's going on. That I've had 4 ENTs tell me I need sinus surgery because my sinuses are so narrow that it's like ridiculous. But I just refuse to do it because I've heard horror stories and I just won't do the surgery. So thankfully, I have not been, I don't even remember the last time I was on antibiotics. But that being said, sometimes you do have to go on them if you just can't get control of an infection. If you do have to do that, then this is a reset that you can do. Okay, you're going to, for 30 days, you're going to do this. You take a Kid Sense Mighty Pro in the morning with breakfast or with your first meal. That's going to give you pre and probiotics. Then you're going to use Essential Zymes 4, and they come in a little dual packet with two pills. Okay, so you're going to take 1 packet, so 2 pills with your 2 largest meals every day for 30 days. Then you're going to use Life 9 between dinner and bedtime. Within like an hour of dinner is the best time to take it usually. 1 Life 9. And then before bed, you're going to take Detoxyzyme, which is potent enzymes, and it helps to cleanse your digestive tract. So you do that before bed, 2 Detoxyzymes. And you'll do that for 30 days, and then you should have a decently reset gut microbiome. I would say you could do that if you're just having symptoms of having a horrible microbiome, even if you're not taking antibiotics. Like if you're noticing candida buildup or something like that, that usually means, and yeast is something that we actually need in our body, but when it goes into overdrive, then that's when you have a problem, because you're getting the bad yeast are overtaking the good yeast and they're proliferating and you're just like overrun with them. So if you're having symptoms of that, which I have had before, and that actually can cause you to get sinus infections. I found that out, that I think that was part of my problem. If you're having candida overload, you might want to do the gut reset also. Let's see. Sorry, I haven't been following the chat. For kids, I would say probably the same thing for kids. I don't know if you could get kids to take the Essential Zymes, but if you could get them to take him, maybe just make the Detoxyzyme 1 instead of 2 if you could get them to take pills. If you can't get kids to take pills, then I would probably just do like a morning and evening Mighty Pro, like double up on the Mighty Pro. And let's see, what isn't there? There's another, I'm trying to think, what else do we have that has enzymes in it that might be like a, I don't know, I have to think about that. But there's probably one of our powders or drinks or something that has enzymes that you could use if your kids won't swallow pills for that. I'll think about that once you know. Okay, so the other thing I want to give you guys, because I always like to give you like a little gift, is Doug actually made up some blends for microbiome health that you could put in roller balls and like roll them on your abdomen. And basically what they do is he chose oils that are selective and will help to kill off nasty germs and help the good ones proliferate. So I'm gonna I have like a little graphic for that, and I'll put it in the chat. And these are just they're just rollers that you put in a 10 milliliter roller and then add whatever carrier you want to it. So there you go. That's in the chat. You should be able to get the file from that. If you guys have any questions, let me know. and I'll answer them. If I don't know, then I will try to get you the answer. Was I freezing?
Maybe it was me. I just wasn't sure because if it was, I was missing parts of what you were saying at the end there.
Oh, sorry.
So I don't know if it could be me.
Right. Well, the last part I was just saying that I put recipes for rollers in the chat, and they're just, you put them on your abdomen and they help to balance the good and bad bacteria. They're oils that like differentiate and know which things to get rid of.
Thank you for that, Amy. That's actually really, really cool.
Oh, and Stacy's gonna
Do you mind putting it?
I'm sorry.
If we could put it in the On the Rise too, so that just in case anybody had trouble downloading it or anything, or I could.
Yes. Yeah, sure. And I think you were gonna post a link to a microbiome bundle.
Yeah.
Bundle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me go get that real quick.
And I'm not sure what you're asking. You're asking if you fast when you do this. I mean, you would probably want, I don't know about fasting, but you would probably want to just try to eat as clean as possible while you were doing this. And just eat like not processed whole food type stuff. And as much fermented stuff as you can that has prebiotic and probiotic stuff in it. And
aside from doing this as a reset, when you're taking enzymes, is it better to take it on an empty stomach or with your food?
With your food.
Yep. Just wanted to make that clear to everybody too. Okay. All right. That is super, super helpful.